The stadium falls silent, not the silence of a crowd holding its breath, something deeper than that. The silence of a crowd witnessing something it knows will never happen again, 20,000 voices suspended. Then one by one they rise from their seats, red and white uniforms, the home team, standing, applauding a player in blue and red, applauding the away team, applauding him. This is football untold. This is the story of Ronaldinho, the smile that cost everything. His name was Ronaldo de Assis Moreira, and he was born in a wooden house in Porto Alegre, Brazil, in 1980 to a shipyard worker named Joe and a mother who would raise 4 sons on almost nothing. The house came with the job, a gift, because Joe's older son Roberto could play. Football was currency in that house. It was the only way out. When Ronaldinho was 8 years old, his father walked into the family swimming pool and drowned. A heart attack, sudden as a bullet. The wooden house remained, the pool remained, but the father did not. For the rest of his life, Ronaldinho smiled through every photograph, every interview, every moment of triumph. It was never entirely clear if he was happy or if he had simply learned that smiling was the price of staying alive. He rose through Grêmio's academy the way all prodigies do, faster than the other boys, more comfortable with the ball than with anything else, already understanding the geometry of space that most players take decades to learn. By the time he was 21, Paris Saint-Germain bought him, €30 million. He was paid to be extraordinary. He was already bored. Barcelona found him there in 2003, a club in freefall. They had failed to sign Beckham. Laporta, the new president, had gambled instead on this smiling boy from Brazil who dribbled like he had invented the move himself. €30 million. He was 22. The contract was 5 years. What nobody knew was that the contract was also a countdown. The first season at Barcelona, almost nothing happened. Then everything happened. In 2004 and 2005, he was somehow everywhere at once, on the left wing, drifting central, dropping deep, appearing in photographs at moments when geometry said he should not be there. The club won La Liga. He won the Ballon d'Or. Brazil won the World Cup in 2002, though by then he was already a Barcelona player, and the memory of that victory had begun to blur into what he did at the Camp Nou, which was harder to believe: a World Cup free kick, a toe poke over the English goalkeeper Seaman's hands, so audacious it looked like a mistake even as it went in. By 2005, he was the best player on earth, undisputed, unreachable. The reign was 3 years old, and no one knew it was almost over. In 2006, Barcelona won the Champions League. He had scored in a Copa del Rey semi-final by standing on the ball and letting opponents crash into each other while he waited for the gap to open. He had invented the move that instant, and it had worked. The entire football world was now watching him. He was 25 years old, and he had accomplished everything a player could accomplish. He should have had a decade ahead of him. Instead, he had something else. November 19, 2005. The Bernabéu, Real Madrid Stadium, Barcelona's enemy. Ronaldinho scored twice, not from error or charity, but because he was better than every Real Madrid player on the pitch, and there was nothing anyone could do about it. When the match ended, the Real Madrid fans rose. They stood. They applauded. They applauded a Barcelona player. They applauded their enemy. 40,000 men and women who bled white and gold, standing to watch a player in blue and red take his bow. It had happened once before, only once, for Maradona. Barcelona's dressing room was not like other dressing rooms. Ronaldinho had learned early that if he smiled and told stories and organized dinners where the best wine was poured and the night did not end until sunrise, the club had no choice but to follow him. The old manager Frank Rijkaard did not know how to hold a leash on someone who did not acknowledge that a leash existed. Samuel Eto'o, the striker who shared that dressing room, later described the decline with the precision of a man who had lived inside it. All-night parties, recovery sessions that seemed optional, training sessions where Ronaldinho moved like a man walking through water. By 2007, he carried weight he had never carried before. The photograph of him at 22 and the photograph of him at 27 look like different men. The club that had signed him for €30 million to be an emperor was now watching him become something else entirely. No one inside Barcelona discussed whether he was still the best player in the world. The question had stopped being asked. Instead, there was only the question of what was happening and why it was happening and how it could be stopped. The answer came in 2008 from a new manager named Pep Guardiola. Guardiola was 27 years old, and the first thing he did was clear the dressing room of the party. He sold Deco. He sold Ronaldinho. He told the board that the project needed Messi, and Messi could not breathe in that atmosphere. Ronaldinho had to go. His decline had been a slow thing, almost invisible if you were not watching closely. But Guardiola had been watching. AC Milan bought him, €21 million, less than he had cost Barcelona. He was 27. At Milan for 1 year, for one season, he flashed again, 8 goals in Serie A title. The smile was still there. But the pattern had not changed. Milan's staff documented it, the way clubs do, the way no one ever says publicly. The nights, the training sessions, the wait. The distance between what he could have been and what he had chosen to be was widening into a chasm that no talent could jump. Flamengo in 2011, Atletico Mineiro in 2012. He was still a brilliant player. He was still Ronaldinho, but the best players are the ones who can be the best for 20 years. Ronaldinho was the best for 3. In 2013, at 33 years old, he won the Copa Libertadores with Atletico Mineiro and was named South American Footballer of the Year. It was a real title for a real achievement. It was also a farewell, though nobody called it that. By 2018, he was no longer playing. The career was finished. The fall had lasted a decade. What happened next nobody had anticipated. In 2018, Brazilian courts fined him $2 million for illegal construction on protected land by a lake. The fines accumulated. His passport was confiscated. The smiling face that had launched 1,000 endorsement deals was now a problem to be managed. Nike had long ago moved on. Pepsi had long ago moved on. The bank balance, when he disputed the fines, showed less than $10 in declared currency. Millions had passed through his hands at the peak. All of it was gone. In March 2020, Ronaldinho and his brother Roberto drove to Paraguay with forged passports. They claimed they had been given the documents by sponsors. No one believed them. The Asunción police arrested them both. They spent 32 days in Agrupación Especializada prison. In the cell block, there was a futsal tournament. Ronaldinho played. His team won 11-2. The prize was a pig, 16 kilograms. He had won the Ballon d'Or. He had stood at the Bernabéu and watched the enemy applaud him. Now he was in prison in Paraguay, receiving a pig as a reward for winning a futsal tournament. He smiled in all the photographs they took. He always smiled. It was hard to tell if it was reflex or defiance. 5 months of custody and hotel arrest passed. In August 2020, he paid $1.6 million and was released. The fines were settled. The passport was returned. He was free in the way that people who have had everything and lost almost all of it are free. The world did not need him to play anymore. The courts did not need him to pay anymore. He had completed his sentence and his penance and his descent. What remained was the question that no one could quite answer, whether the fall was punishment for the parties, or whether the parties were simply the visible symptom of something deeper that nobody had ever named. He is still alive. He appears at Barcelona events. He is a legend. He is beloved. He never stops smiling. The smile that made crowds gasp at the Bernabéu is the same smile that made them gasp in a prison in Asunción. Maybe that was the problem. Maybe that was the point. Maybe a man who has learned to survive loss at the age of 8 will never take anything seriously again, not even the gift of being the best in the world. 3 years at the top, 97 caps for Brazil. 207 goals in club football. The shortest reign of any undisputed number 1 since the modern game was born. He never stopped smiling. Some stories end at full time. This one never did.